everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Real Estate Parlor podcast, brought to you by Tour Via Real Estate. I'm Matt Labrot. That, as always, is Chayan, Alavi, and we are here to talk real estate news and the life of a real estate agent. It has been another week since we last talked, and a lot of stuff has happened.
Yep.
So we have got a lot of stuff to cover this week.
First and foremost, tell me who sings this song. Machine Head! Better than the rest!
Somebody
does not know who
song.
Bush is. I'm
I don't
so disappointed that I'm doing a podcast with somebody who does not know who Bush is. We're going to see him at the OC Fair. It's going to be amazing. How old were you in 1998?
9.
9 years old?
9.
You were not a cool 9-year-old, obviously.
No, I was not a cool 9-year-old. For anybody who doesn't know anything
Yeah.
about me, which is most of you, I grew up in a tiny town that no one's ever heard of.
Tell us about that tiny town.
Apparently, I didn't have access to the radio.
That's
so
all good. It's all
I
good. I'll
never
forgive you
listened
this
to it.
time. But
Okay.
anyways, Bush rocks.
Go
Class
see
of
them.
2001. Whoop whoop.
Go see them at the OC Fair.
OC Fair.
Coming to you soon.
Yeah, that's how you know your time is gone.
Okay.
All right.
well,
So, anyways, let's get into it. What do you want to talk about today? What are we doing?
I want to talk about last week. Everything that happened last week, starting with another fantastic California 4th of July.
Oh, that's right.
How was your 4th?
I had a good 4th actually. This was my 1-year-old second 4th of July. He was barely a few months old the first time around. So this year is I had a picture I was going to send you and I hadn't set it up, but
That's okay.
I'm going to send this to you. This is a photo of him right when he's sitting with his mom, and we're doing like these little tiny baby fireworks. You know, basically a sparkler, but a little bit more than a sparkler, and all the babies were freaking out. We had 2 1-year-olds, a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 5-year-old. So our 4th of July was very lit. So anyways, I got this $50 pack of just very basic fireworks, and I thought they would get a kick out of it. Oh no. They were all crying. They were scared.
So not the good kind of freaking out.
The 3-year-old, my niece, she was like, I don't like it. I don't want it. And they were like, okay, yeah. And the grandmas were like thinking she likes it. Like, come here, get closer. She's like, no, I don't want to get closer. And so it was very charming and very cute. But note to self, 1-year-olds, 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, not ready for fireworks by any means. Any kind of fireworks, sparklers or not. So it was fun.
That's surprising to me. I would have assumed that babies would love sparklers.
Yeah,
and
actually, you know
shiny
what
stuff.
though? I have some video, so I'm going to shoot you the video so you can include like what kind of fireworks show this was and some photos of the babies crying to show you our 4th of July. So that was good. What about you? I think you were on a boat, right?
We were on a boat. We went to Long Beach, or we live in Long Beach.
Oh!
Yep, and we took a little dinghy boat around the harbor and saw all the frat kids having their parties on the beach.
Yep.
And then we just settled down in front of a friend's house of ours, right in front of the beach, next to the Queen Mary. Watched the fireworks show.
I saw a photo. You guys look like you were in a Disneyland ride.
That's what it felt like.
Like
I
you're
felt
on the
like I
Jungle
was
Cruise,
the Jungle Cruise
And you
captain.
had this like enormous party platter,
Yeah.
right? And there was, how many people were there?
There was 4 of us.
Oh, 4 of you for that
and
thing?
there was
That's
food
hilarious.
for 40 people.
Yeah, that looked
It was-
nice. You
yeah.
guys look really rich.
It was very
It looked
upper
really
class.
expensive.
Yes, the cheese and meat plate was on a marble platter.
Oh, wow.
To keep it cold and all
That's
that.
what
Yeah.
rich people do. Hey,
But-
how much is it to rent one of those Disneyland boats?
It was reasonable. It's like $100 an hour.
Did you
I
have
think.
Did you see any audio animatronics in the water?
No,
No,
just drunk people. And apparently this is the norm, but we were just floating around in our boat, and these frat dudes in another boat were throwing water balloons and squirting people with squirt guns.
Yeah.
And we're over here trying to have a great time.
Did you say stop it, Kyle? No.
Put down your Monster Energy drink
Yeah,
and leave
put
us
down your
alone.
Monster Energy, Kyle, and get back to work.
That's exactly what it felt like. It was very silly.
Oh, wow.
But also, I'm a fairly good driver. Turns out I suck at driving a boat.
Yeah, boats are kind of hard. They don't have brakes.
Yep, I almost crashed into the dock
Yep.
as we were trying to leave.
Yep.
Like as we were starting our journey, so it didn't really put faith in everybody's minds that I could do this. But yeah, it was fine. We all survived.
That's good. That sounds like an eventful 4th.
Yeah.
I like it. I'm approving.
But, you know, other things happened on the 4th and the 5th, I think it was, that we almost didn't survive.
Oh,
We,
are you talking about earthquakes?
I'm talking about San Andreas Fault, the movie with The Rock, The World is Coming to an End.
Dude, everybody was freaking out about
It-
these earthquakes. Like, it was a
we-
big deal.
Yep.
Everybody's texting, and yeah, I think we haven't had an earthquake in a while, but California's rocking with earthquakes all the time.
Yeah, it's been I've born and raised in California. I spent a few years outside of the state, but I've felt an earthquake before, but having two back to back was very surprising. And I really want to talk about it because the reactions that I've been getting from friends and family are that they are terrified and that they all of a sudden can't believe they live in California and the world is coming to an end, and property value, of course, is what we're here to talk about, of why would you buy a home in California? It's going to fall over. An earthquake's going to separate San Francisco from the rest of California. Is this a realistic fear that people have? What's happening?
You know, it's funny because the majority of people do not have earthquake insurance. We own several homes. None of them have earthquake insurance. I think earthquake insurance is usually really expensive. It's not reasonable add-on. It's like a substantial add-on. And is it worth it? Absolutely. Historically, though, calculated risk-wise, it's low probability that you would actually utilize earthquake insurance, because if you think about it, it's like your house has to shake enough, or it needs to be close enough to the fault line of the earthquake where you'd have serious damage to the point where your foundation gets rocked or your house starts to crumble or break. The probability of that, even in California, is extremely low. Some areas higher than others, but the real problem with earthquake insurance is just really expensive. I do have a friend in the insurance business, and he said their phones were swamped. Everybody,
people adding it?
yes, everybody's calling in, adding earthquake insurance, and trust me,
my
as
gosh.
the first thing we think about, my wife, she said something funny. She's like, "We need waters and we need this," and all I think about is, honey, if our houses fall down, we've got much bigger problems. You know, kill me anyways, because we owe millions in these houses, and we definitely don't want them crumbling from earthquakes. So it's one of those things where even though it's smart to have, if it was a small calculated risk, when we talk to buyers and they're saying, they always ask like, "Hey, what about earthquake insurance? Should I add it?" I always ask them, what is your policy how much is it adding? And if it's within $200 a month, that's reasonable. And I think it's probably worth it. Problem is, earthquake insurance is not. One of our houses, it doubles the entire insurance.
That's
literally doubles
insane.
it. So that's too much.
When you just said $200 right now, I was shocked
Why?
that it was an extra $200 a month
Yes.
for earthquake insurance.
No, that is extremely cheap.
That's
That's
crazy.
not reasonable. $200 a month is not what it costs. It usually costs anywhere upwards of $350 to $600 a month, but there's a million factors that go into play, so you can't really say that's what it costs. But so I would say the majority of buyers and majority of homeowners do not have earthquake insurance coverage. Wish it wasn't the case. I think if it was more reasonable, people would have it. That's just my perception of things. I could be completely wrong. I could be saying incorrect information, but overall, that's my experience level on the earthquake policy. Are we going to panic? No. Are we going to add it? No. Did I promise my wife we were going to get emergency packs of water? Yes, I did.
Yeah, and that's where my brain defaulted as well. Is I called my sister, who also lives in California, but she lives in Northern California. She didn't feel anything, and all she said was, "Do you guys have emergency water?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "What is? No,
And I'm like, we have a
emergency water."
bathtub. We'll fill it with water. There you go. You're done. You've got 80 gallons sitting there.
Yeah. So that's all fine. You know, we're going to get our first aid kit in order. We'll put some backup water and all that stuff. But what I can't get over is the amount of people who are saying that they would rather live somewhere where there's going to be a tornado because they have tornado warnings. So the tornado siren goes off and they know it's coming and they can go into their little bunker. I think that this is California privilege at its finest to say that these two earthquakes that we had, and don't get me wrong, I know that some bad stuff happened. You know, I know that some power lines went down or some houses probably did get really damaged. But to compare that to a tornado ripping through a town, is crazy talk.
Right. Yeah.
It's not a California wildfire. We'll talk about that. That's a different
Your
story.
house will at least still be there. It might be on the floor, but it won't fly away. Right.
That
You'll have your pictures. You'll have your stuff. And if you have earthquake
and
insurance, you're good.
how many homes have a little bit of cracks in the foundation or little bit of things like that?
Yeah.
We
Less
do
than
property
1/8 of an
inspections.
inch, the crack is technically okay, and that's
Yeah.
normal. To have
It
less than
happens.
1/8 of an inch,
You know,
inspectors
we
will be okay with that.
trees put cracks in foundations more than earthquakes probably put cracks
Yeah.
in foundations.
There's some law of truth to that.
Nobody fact checked me on that. I definitely just came up with
Yeah,
that.
I know you
but
did. It's all
That
good.
would make sense that, and most foundation problems are caused by old age and erosion, not an earthquake.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're not, for the record, you're not going to sell all of your homes and go buy homes in Kentucky or somewhere
No,
else.
I'm not going to trade in the earthquake for the tornadoes. I mean, realistically, natural hazards are everywhere. You're riddled in flood zones, fire zones, earthquake zones, tornado zones. It just comes with it. And then you have bad neighborhoods. Those should be their own natural hazard zones.
Yeah, seriously.
So,
Yeah.
it comes with risks, a part of home ownership. But if you get adequate coverage, you get earthquake policy, you have an umbrella policy, it's the best you can do. And life will go on, and if shit hits the fan, you'll be okay. And I think that's the only thing you can do is just prepare for the worst and live the best.
And so
how I feel it is.
let's take a little half pause then and just talk about insurance in general for a second. We all have different health insurance
Yeah.
and home insurance and all that stuff. So just what you're telling me is that if my home gets shaken and crashes down to the ground, and if I don't have earthquake insurance, I still owe the bank all of the money for my home.
That is
and
correct.
I no longer have a home.
That is correct.
So that's why I'm paying $400 a month for that.
Yes.
Okay.
That is correct. So it's a big risk. Hopefully your home won't be one of those crumbled homes you see in the big ones in San Francisco and things like that. But now remember, if you are on a raised foundation, you have a different kind of worry than a concrete slab foundation. Obviously, there's less probability of your house falling off of sticks when it's on a concrete slab. If the concrete slab slices or breaks, that's extremely expensive, but probably less risk. But here in Los Angeles County, we have a lot of old homes, most of which have been raised on foundations. Some of them are not retrofitted, they're not bolted, they're not strapped. And obviously, if you have that shaking, you have serious concerns that your house might either fall off the foundation, crack, break, and I think you've got a little bit more cause for concern on older homes when it comes to newer homes. But of course, there's argument for most contractors like raised foundations actually. And most people say, I'd never want to raise foundation. It's not true. If you have access to the bottom of your house, you can replace plumbing, you can get into repairs, you can do upgrades, you have a lot more access. And contractors would prefer a raised foundation over a concrete slab any day. But I think the average consumer probably would just feel more comfortable with a concrete slab. So there's risks and benefits to anything and everything, but those are basically some of your options that you've got.
So we are not insurance experts, and we are not going to point anybody in the direction of do buy earthquake insurance or don't. But for entertainment purposes, I just thought it was amusing at how many people were flat out telling me that they were going to leave California because of this earthquake.
I think there's a million other reasons why you'd want to leave California than that. My God, it is so dense here now. There's just too many people. I don't understand why you'd want to live in the west side of LA, which, by the way, is phenomenally expensive. I mean, we're talking price per square foot, $1,500, $1,700 price per square foot. And yes, you have a lot of cool attractions, great places to eat, shop, hang out. You got the beach, you got downtown, but Mike, you can't go anywhere. I mean, you literally have to be ready for an urban life where you take your bicycle, scooter, walk, and things are just not close enough to do that like it is in true urban environments like a metropolitan like New York or downtown LA. And they're riddled with homeless people, trash, just a bunch of different things that are usually not things you want to live around, extremely expensive. So that logic is kind of leaving me. I'm not really understanding the benefits of that. But regarding the earthquake, what do you think of that house? Does that house look like it survived an earthquake or what?
The house that you just sent me?
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks
Do you
like
think they have earthquake policy?
I would assume so.
You would assume so?
Yeah,
Got it. Now,
I wonder.
do you know where that house is?
I know exactly where that house is.
Okay.
So I was just gonna say, before we get into, I think I know what you're getting ready to talk to me about. But before we get into that, how much do you think Disneyland's earthquake insurance is?
I don't think they have earthquake insurance.
No?
No. When you're that rich and you have that much money,
Yeah.
I don't think you necessarily need insurance.
So would that
or
be the
insurance
same?
would cover.
Would that be the same for the $20 million Malibu home? They're probably not paying earthquake
No,
insurance.
I think that's a little bit different because
Okay.
a Malibu home, even if it's $20 million, you still want a good insurance policy. But when you're Disneyland,
when you talk about
you've
billions,
got billions of dollars.
Yeah.
They would a policy would say, hey, yeah, we'll give you a $5 million policy. Disneyland would laugh at that. Be like, we don't
Yeah.
need your $5 million. Like, so
They just spent $1 billion.
An insurance company needs to be bigger than the person they're insuring usually.
Gotcha. Okay.
So yeah,
that's a good rule of thumb.
Yeah,
that your
that's the
insurance
problem
company
you've got.
needs a higher net worth.
exactly.
Than,
It's just
okay.
same thing with health insurance. Sometimes people are like, I'm rich enough. I don't have to worry about it if you're a multi-billionaire. So you can cover anything. It's not an issue. But yeah. Anyways, so you know what that photo's from?
Yeah, that's Toontown, baby.
That's Toontown. But do you know what happened in Toontown the last couple days?
I saw the headline title. But
Did you see the video?
I have not seen this video.
You have not seen this video?
I have not.
Well, I watched this last night, and I know this is not really a real estate topic, but I was so disturbed by this video.
Okay.
If you want to hit play on it, you can.
I do.
But
am I watching this whole 4
no,
minute
you can
video?
stop it whatever you want. But
Okay.
there's a couple things that are shocking to me in this video, and I know I'm going to say there's a house in the background, so it's related, but essentially it's somebody getting a fight at Toontown. I mean, out of all the places in Disney you're going to get a fight, Toontown. But if you're watching this video, do you think there's ever something that could go on in your life that you could act a fool like this at the happiest place on earth? Like, tell me a scenario where this is okay.
Okay, I'm going to jump into this, and I'm
Are
going
you
to tell
gonna play
you.
yet?
No, I'm going to hit play right now.
Okay. I mean, you don't have to watch the whole thing, but this is like there's little kids around.
Oh my God!
It's shocking. It is absolutely shocking. It is. I mean, this tastefulness is.
She just pushed the stroller out of the way.
Yeah, and like a stranger comes in, swipes up one of the babies because he's about to get mulled over, and this is in front of a crowd where people have phones out.
He just pushed that random lady.
This guy is beating on women in the middle of the in Disneyland. And there's just people that are like shocked. Babies are screaming. It's like, what?
This old lady rolled up in her scooter to try to like, block the fight.
She's like trying to block the fight. And then the chicks are going at it.
Oh my God!
It's shocking,
I don't
right?
even know who's associated with who.
I mean, I'm sorry to bring this up during our real estate podcast, but there is a house in the background. It looks like it went through an earthquake.
This is a town. This is Toontown.
This is Toontown,
We
USA,
gotta
baby.
protect Toontown.
You're gonna go crazy in Toontown.
The first Disneyland employee showed up
Oh, the guy with
with the broom.
the broom, yeah.
Poor dude.
The guy's like, I have no idea what I should do. This is outside of my
I'm gonna
jurisdiction.
now there's more.
So the guy in the pink, he is definitely the aggressor.
Yeah.
What's interesting is I watched the video twice. So towards the end of the video, he starts to go nuts on the girl in the blue jeans and the brown tank top.
Yeah.
I think that's his girl. I think he's with her, and he starts beating up his own girlfriend in front of everybody in Toontown. Which, obviously, the whole thing is disgusting and shocking, but that is just unreal. If he's doing that,
Insane.
and I don't know
And
if
people just keep coming back.
you think that he's going to end like 6 times, and it just keeps going and
Where's
going.
the Disney police?
You know-
Oh my God! I can't watch anymore.
Oh, man.
I gotta just skip through.
Yeah.
Where's the Disney police?
Yeah, they roll up
Oh, there they are.
like way later, almost 5 minutes later. But did you see when he goes after the girl?
Yeah.
That's his girl, I think.
That's insane.
That's his
Yeah,
girl,
I
and he
hope
goes
not anymore.
nuts on her.
Whoa.
This is Disneyland. Okay. Now, there's a lot of comments about it. One of which is actually really hilarious. Was somebody say, "Hey, there's a jail in Disneyland." I like the amusing
Oh,
one.
I'm gonna
But-
cut this. I'm gonna cut this, and then I'm gonna paste in the fact that I have a picture of me behind
Oh,
bars
perfect.
in Toontown.
Perfect.
So I'll put that in.
That's where they should have belonged. But
That's insane.
overall, though, yeah,
I'm exhausted right now.
I know. I had like a tear that was about to come down my eye watching this because it was just, I couldn't believe that they were letting their baby see all that. But yeah, it was just like crazy. I had to share it and just get your reaction for it.
Can we loop it back around to real estate and talk
Yeah,
about
fine.
how that's why
Fine.
Anaheim property values aren't doing so hot?
I don't know if they're from. Hey, they paid almost $200 a pop to get in there.
I know.
They just acting ghetto doesn't mean they are ghetto. In fact, some of the
That's-
comments were talking about their shoes, how expensive
Yeah.
their shoes were.
Yeah.
Like, hey, that guy's wearing those. I don't know what kind of brand shoes
Money,
they were.
money doesn't mean that you're not going to randomly snap in the middle of Toontown and start beating people up.
I don't know.
That was
I thought
insane.
I thought it was wild. So
That is
all
absolutely
right,
insane.
let's go back to boring things.
Man, that was nuts.
Yeah.
I'm glad that I hadn't seen that video until just now, but I am kind of mad that I have seen that video.
I know.
now.
I'm sorry. I know your kind eyes were not going to
You
do
know,
well
my
with this video.
my heart sees Disneyland. I'm like, that's Toontown right there.
I know.
Toontown.
I'm
Stuff
sorry.
like that doesn't actually.
So somebody
I don't know
said
if
one time 2 people got into like a verbal argument on Main Street, and within 14 seconds, literally, Disneyland SWAT was all over them. breaking
Yeah,
them,
I don't
escorting
know
them out.
how this
But
4-minute
because
video
this
is-
was in Toontown, which is anybody knows Disneyland. Toontown is all the way north.
It is pretty
and,
deep. Yeah.
And not only is it all the way north, like kind of isolated, you don't expect this to happen in Toontown, where all the little kids are and all the
Yeah,
babies are. Like
for
that's
sure.
the last place you probably would expect things to go kind of awry. So it just took them almost 5 minutes for the Disneyland police to get there, which is kind of shocking, but also very unnecessary that human beings have to act that way.
Yeah, but then
So-
also when Disneyland police did show up, they showed up.
They did,
That was
yeah.
a force that just
Yeah,
came in.
but a little bit too late.
Man, well, I'm gonna follow up with that, and I hope that that dude
Gets what you deserve.
yeah,
right.
that was nuts.
All right, anyways, what's up?
What a
What else we got?
crazy video. What else is happening?
So that was my event of the week that I was really kind of disturbed by. But talk about scary homes. Has that client ever told you about something kind of not normal that they're scared about when they're buying a house? Has anybody ever said to you something weird or just like supernatural about buying a house?
I'm assuming you're talking not. I want the toilet to face this direction.
No.
or something like that.
I'm not talking about
something
like
creepy.
feng shui, or I'm talking about like literally, I'm scared of ghosts, or I'm
Hmm.
scared of something that's not real. Have you ever had that? Probably
No.
not yet, huh?
Of like this, I don't want this imaginary
Yeah.
thing to. No.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
I've had that. I've had where somebody who's like, I'm scared of ghosts, and how do I know that this? Actually, I've had multiple clients who've been afraid of ghosts and things like that, and you have to have that ghost conversation with them, and it's like, where do you draw the line? Do you say you're being ridiculous, grow up, or do you are you sensitive to that and say, oh, yeah, I totally understand, and so how do you think you would deal with somebody saying, hey, I want to know before I move forward with this house, how do I know it's not haunted? What would you say to them
So,
realistically?
realistically, what I would say is, how do you know that anywhere is not haunted? And I'm not asking them this crazy question of like, everywhere is haunted, get over it. I want to know what their process is.
Yeah.
If they need this place blessed, or they need to lay crystals in a circle, or whatever they do. And if they have a thing, if they have I normally call this company, and they come out and they inspect for ghost, I'd say, great.
Yeah.
We have an inspection timeline.
Yeah.
Let's call out, who are you
I
going to call?
I think that's the
Ghostbusters.
appropriate way to do it. You're gonna.
It felt silly saying it, but
does.
it felt right at the
It
same
does.
time.
I had a client who literally brought up the movie The Conjuring, which is that ghost movie about the haunted doll. I think it's a doll.
I don't know, but I would first of all never watch it. So.
But she was like really terrified of that movie and was worried about ghosts. And even as ridiculous as it does sound to some people, you have to roll with the punches and be respectful and sensitive to anybody's needs, no matter what it is. And you just have to kind of say, yes, we can do blessings. You can have a ghost inspector in there, because you can have any other kind of inspector. Why can't you have a ghost inspector and come and see if the house is haunted or not? Because if that's essentially what makes somebody happy, they're going to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars or $500,000. I think they should know what they're buying, no
Yeah.
matter how ridiculous or how crazy it seems. They have their due diligence period, and they should execute it to its fullest.
Well, and
so bless them.
I'll throw out there that it'd be easier for me to swallow that somebody cares about that and they want to have somebody come out and inspect that than how some people just rip apart an inspection report and are like, oh, well, I can't live in a home that has an upside down socket in the living room.
Yeah.
We're going to have to get that taken care of.
Right.
That's more crazy to me.
That's true.
Than, I really deeply care about spiritual whatever. And
Absolutely.
then need to get that taken care of.
Yeah, you can't judge a book by its cover, and you just have to roll with your client's punches anyway.
Yeah.
They come, because they will come in all different kinds of fashions. Trust me. Over the years, you come across so many weird things that nothing is weird. The only thing that's weird is not doing a deal. And,
So is there a ghost real estate inspector?
Not that I've researched enough. I've gotten to the point where we can have blessings on the homes. I've had multiple clients do blessings both before they move in and after they've moved in. So I've seen that happen in both cases, but that's more normal, and I think that's just a spiritual kind of thing, not necessarily associated with ghosts. But I would love to see a Ghostbuster inspection, because I know there's got to be something like that, right?
So there absolutely is.
Oh, are you looking it up?
And
You
it took
weirdo.
me 12 seconds to find it.
Okay.
There's a YouTube channel.
How much do they charge?
I don't know. There's a YouTube channel called Paranormal Home Inspectors. And on season 1, episode 1, I am 15 seconds in, and I saw a guy wearing a jumpsuit. I'm going to put it in this video here.
Okay.
Wearing a jumpsuit that looked like a legitimate home inspector. And he had like a little, one of those moisture guns.
Oh, yeah.
But it looks like he's using it to
He's detecting.
detect ghosts.
That's how you do it.
That's yeah.
That is.
And I think the big picture, right, is that it's all about feeling comfortable in the home that you're buying.
Yeah.
And if that's what you need, then great.
Yeah.
We're going to help you feel comfortable. But, I think it's interesting you bring it up. Would you live next to a cemetery? Because you basically said you don't care about ghosts.
Correct. Which is so funny, because I've purchased homes where somebody's passed away in, which to me there's a difference between passing away in a home and being murdered in a home, right? So like, people are like, ooh, I don't want to have a house that somebody died in. Well, first of all, in California, you only have to disclose the first 3 years somebody's died in the house. So
Yeah.
if you're buying a 50-year-old house or even older, 70, 80-year-old house, trust me, you don't know. If your ignorance is bliss, fantastic. But it doesn't mean people haven't died in that house. So first of all, if somebody's passed away in the home, great. I think the home has actually done its job and its chapter's closed. I personally prefer to probably pass away at home versus at,
In a hospital, for sure.
right? It's like cold and foreign, and that doesn't sound that appealing to me. So passing away at home is the right way of closing that final door. So that doesn't scare me and bother me. And I've purchased a home that somebody's passed away in, and we lived in it, and it wasn't a problem. Never felt like a problem. Still isn't a problem. And then, but it's weird. But if you live in front of a cemetery, to me, it's too creepy.
Yeah.
Personally,
see?
I think that devalues the home a lot. I think it's a turnoff. And it's just kind of just creepy, and it doesn't look happy, and it doesn't make you feel warm and fuzzy when you're looking at a cemetery because of, just the coldness and the starkness that a cemetery is. Haunted movies start in cemeteries, right? So why should you live next to one?
Yeah.
So I personally think a cemetery is, I would adjust for that. If I'm taking a listing and it's like right across the street from a cemetery and you can see the tombstones, that's a deterrent.
Absolutely. I feel like anybody who's going to a property and the backyard is a cemetery,
Yeah.
that's going to adjust the value.
You know what's funny is we're kind of shopping for a house right now, and we found a home literally in front of a cemetery, just like you brought up. And But what was interesting about this cemetery is that it had no tombstones that came out of the ground.
Okay,
So
it
they
was
were
all
all
flat.
flat. So when
Yeah.
you're looking at it,
It looks like grass.
it just looked like grass.
Okay.
So you're like, oh, that's nice. But then you find out it's a cemetery. Does that change things?
It's all in your own brain, but yes,
I mean,
it totally does.
It kind of does. But
Yeah.
at the end, you're still technically living to that cemetery. But
Yeah, but again, the reason that you don't want to live next to a cemetery isn't because you're afraid that zombies are going to come out and climb over the fence and eat you.
no,
It's that there's just something about it.
it's eerie. It's creepy. I think it's not a valuable asset to live next to a cemetery. But it's also not a valuable asset to live next to a tow truck yard or
I was going to say airport.
or
like that, yeah.
or processing facility. Or, there's like a million bad things. And that's why buying a house is unlike buying anything else. You buy a house, you buy a car, you buy a fridge, you buy a TV, you walk into that place, and you basically, sometimes 5 minutes and 2 hours later, you walk out with that item. A house, you have 17 to 21 days boilerplated into your contract to mull it over, think about it, research it, and know what you're buying. And to me, that's a big difference when a lot of times people put so much pressure on themselves when they're buying a house, like, oh my God, I'm buying a house. It's like, no, you're buying a house eventually. You've got almost 3 weeks to think about this decision and know what you're buying and feel comfortable with it. And if it doesn't feel right night after night when you're going to sleep and you're waking up getting more and more distaste in your mouth for the home, then you're probably not making the right decision. But if you're getting, you can still be jittery, but if you're getting excited and you're getting anxious and you're looking forward to it, then you're on the right path. And I have that conversation with buyers all the time. I'm letting them know, like, hey, if you're not getting excited about this house, the further we're going into it, it's probably not the right deal. So, but I can be very fine-tuned with understanding if people just have jitters or they're actually not feeling the property. And that's a hard thing to gauge. And I think with experience, it becomes more and more evident and valuable to figure out which side of the line they're sitting on, jitters or not liking it. So, that comes into it.
So within your inspection contingency period, what is the craziest or silliest or weirdest thing that somebody has told you this is why we're canceling? Legitimate reason too, not a cop-out reason. Why has somebody said, no, we're not buying this home? We discovered this in the inspection and we're not going to do it.
Hundreds of deals, and I'm trying to think. I know if I thought about it, I probably would have a good one. But on the cusp, I'm trying to think of something ridiculous. I know, and this one might not be ridiculous as much, and maybe another one will come to me by the time I'm done with my sentence. But I remember one time we had a house in, I forget what city it was, but it was next to a mountain, not a mountain, but a large hill. And on that hill, there was a rock. Okay, it was a large rock, but it was still a rock. Okay.
Yeah.
They were in escrow. We'd done the inspection, and they just not could get over this rock. This rock was going to fall on their house at some point. And I was like trying to be respectful and be like, yeah, that's not impossible that this rock could fall on your house, but it's not likely because it's still part of the mountain. And it's just a rock. So I wouldn't really worry about it too much. But nope, they were just convinced that this rock was going to fall on their house, destroy their home, and they just did not. They were going to die. And it's hard to say without showing you a photograph. And it wasn't like completely insane because there was a big boulder. And I would say it was the size of, maybe the size of a fridge. Okay. So it was not like a tiny rock, but it also wasn't like moving or...
Yeah, and it wasn't one of those ones that's sitting on top of a
No, it looked
it's like wiggling back and
Yeah,
forth.
it was fused into the mountain. Like,
Okay.
It wasn't looking like it was sitting on a grassy knoll, balled up into a round ball ready to come down.
Yeah.
So that was kind of strange. That was a cancellation. And then I had another cancellation. That wasn't inspection-wise, but we were 1 day away from closing. This was a long time ago, and this was back when I was very hungry and I didn't have a lot of money, and I was really counting on this paycheck, which is a bad place to be in real estate, but I was. And the guy called me the day before it was closed. He signed loan docs. He did everything except wire the final funds in, and he said, "Chayan, I'm canceling." I'm like, "No, you're not. Stop playing. No,
it definitely doesn't work that
Get
way.
out of here.
No.
Come on, get out of here." But and he had a $10,000 deposit. And I said, first of all, if you're being serious, you're going to lose that $10,000 deposit. There is no way I can even pretend to back out of this deal and get your deposit back.
Yeah.
It's the last day. He says, oh, I know that. I'm fine with it. It's gone. Goodbye. And I mean, goodbye to deposit, not to me. The conversation went on. I said, okay, well, what's going on? We're like, what happened? Is something with the house? He's like, well, my wife's daughter just got out of jail, and she's a menace. She's a reckless fiend, and apparently she's moving in with me, and that's not happening. I'm not buying this house and having my stepdaughter, who I barely know, coming out of jail with all her friends. So it just became this huge, big thing, and the deal canceled, unfortunately. And
Dang.
that was really painful for me at the time, and of course painful for him losing that money, and painful
And I'm
for all
assuming his
parties.
wife, did they get a divorce?
I don't know. I never
okay.
talked to him after that. Not that there was any issues with me or I had with him,
Yeah.
but never talked to him after that. I don't know what happened, but he was very adamant. Like, he was not buying this house. It was not going to be a thing. And he
That's
was
crazy.
so comfortable with losing 10 grand. I mean, that's how
That's how
bad
much
the
he did not
situation
want
was.
to
Yeah.
live with
If
a
you're-
stepdaughter fresh out of prison.
So it kind of explains, like, there was not even a negotiable. It wasn't like, oh, can I do anything? Like, he was
Yeah.
just like, no, goodbye. Like,
No.
I'm done with the money. Like,
What did the seller's agent say?
seller's agent, it was a foreclosure at the time.
Okay.
So, I mean, the house sold. Luckily for them, this listing agent was going to sell it again. Yeah, he'd have to wait for his money and go through the process, but not a big deal. More hurtful for me on the buy side because it was gone. So
Yeah.
this was a long time ago. This was well over a decade ago. And yeah, just very, very painful. But it happens. It happens.
Yeah. And that just goes to show you do not count your paycheck until it is cleared at the bank.
Yeah, you do
You
not
have,
count.
you have not officially been paid. Don't buy a dang thing.
This is a
until
tough
that
business,
check is cleared.
right? I mean, you felt it. You felt where you've done a lot of work and possibly not get paid on something. I mean,
Oh,
you,
yeah.
you felt those bugs. You just had one.
Yeah,
Where
I had my
you,
first
You had your first fire.
cancellation.
You fired your first client.
Oh, that's not what I meant.
Oh, no, okay.
But yeah, that was, that's different. We had been working together for a while and it just wasn't coming together. Unfortunately, we just couldn't agree on the plan of attack to get them into a home, and that part was fine. But
you have to get to a pretty bad place
Yeah.
for an agent to fire a client, because an agent, we clients are like lotto tickets. Like, we need every single one of them. What happened? Like, tell me a little bit more insight, whatever you're willing to share. Like, how could it get so bad that you would be willing to fire somebody?
So, and again, I wasn't like, you're fired, leave me alone. It was more of we came to a mutual agreement that we should work with other people going forward. And basically, what had really happened is they came to me with a budget, a specific range that they wanted to look in, and we found a home pretty close to right away that was at the top of their budget. They wanted to put in an offer at the top of their budget, and at that point there was a counter that went above their budget, so we had to back out. So at that point I said, here's what we really should be doing. We need to be looking in the lower part of your budget, so when we find something that you really like, you're going to know that there's competition and you can be more
That's
aggressive.
smart. That makes sense.
Yeah, be more aggressive
So
in
what
your
happened?
bidding.
Why did you guys break up?
So what happened was we'd find a home $40,000 less than the max of their budget, and they'd still be trying to undercut the price on that one.
Yeah.
And the home had only been listed for a couple of days. They were getting multiple offers, and all of a sudden we're getting outbid by 15 to 20K
Yeah.
left and right. And, you can only write so many offers and lose so many times without something being building up between you two, right? Or between client and agent.
You guys have to be getting closer and getting better
Correct.
about.
Yeah, and we're actually pretty close. We had a really
Oh, yeah.
and that's the problem. We were really close multiple times.
It hurts
and
even more.
just
Yeah.
difference
really
of
does.
difference of opinion on how the process should really work as well was kind of a tough one. But again, just overall, we were not agreeing with how this should be going forward, and that's why we kept losing. We lost, and I don't like to lose. Nobody likes to lose. I mean, even the buyer didn't like to lose, but they weren't willing to do what they needed to do to not lose.
Yeah.
So, and I get it. It's tough for some people to pay over an asking price, but when the home is hot or the home has been listed maybe too low, and that's why you have to go over asking price, you have to be able to make those adjustments on the fly. And,
Yeah, a lot.
yeah.
That's a good point because a lot of times the buyer will ask, "Hey, what should I offer?" And there is a million things in that scenario of how you can structure an offer. But the most important one, and I would say in the list of how to make an offer and what are your negotiation leverages, number one is market time. How long has it been on the market? And that's the one, if she didn't get that and she's going lowballing on everything that's been listed for less than 10 days, that's infancy. Like, there's no reason why the logic on a seller's part should be like, hey, yeah, come in, undercut me a lot when I've only been listed for one weekend. Like,
Yeah.
3 people have come to the house so far. That doesn't make a lot of sense. If the house has
Yeah.
been listed for 3 months, yeah, you should offend the seller in a lot of ways with
Definitely.
your initial offer.
Yeah.
And also, is the home vacant? Is the seller relocating? Is it a
Yeah.
trust sale? Did somebody pass away? There's a million different factors that come into play to making that good offer. And I think a good agent will be able to dissect and understand where it's going to go. And plus, a good agent will know if it's overpriced, if it's underpriced, and hopefully guide you. But if you weren't able to get that trust, and it seems like you were just her punching bag, right? If she was saying do this and you're saying that's not going to work, but I'm going to write it anyways, well, I can understand there's a lot of frustration there because if you're hiring an agent, that's one thing. But if you're hiring a locksmith to open up doors for you, it's something totally different.
Yeah.
I guess
Yeah.
she didn't understand that.
Yeah, and on the flip side, with those how to write the offers, my most recent listing, it had been listed on the market for 12 hours.
Yeah.
We had one showing, and that person wrote an offer at full asking price. Full asking price, great. It's exactly what we were
Yeah.
hoping to get. But they gave us a 24-hour, not even 24-hour, another 12-hour deadline
Right.
on the offer.
They're trying to strong arm you because
And it's like, what are you guys really thinking is going to happen here?
Yeah.
I'm going to jump at the chance to get an asking price offer when I have a 100% viewing to offer ratio. You're the first person to have seen it, and you want to buy it.
yeah, and
Don't you
not
think
even
that
a
the other
day.
showings this weekend will probably go the same
Totally
way?
right. Well, you were smart, but I could see another agent saying, "Yeah, sure.
Oh, sure, great. We got
oh, great. Yep, we'll
Yeah.
take it. We'll get it off the market."
But also, and I was really, letting that agent know as well, like, listen, we appreciate the offer. Thank you so much, but please understand that nobody else has seen this home. Like, it's got to hit the market. And those people, they ended up coming back and saying, of course, we'll extend our offer. And when we did counters, they were in it, and they ended up winning, which was great. But, to just try to strong arm.
What did they close? What were they? So they tried to buy at list price. What did they end up closing at?
Yeah, I mean, we sold it $55K over
All right,
over
so
list price.
You sold at 55,000 over list price. Not bad, and
Not too
especially
shabby.
to the same people who are trying to strong arm you. So they try to say 55 grand by giving you a 1 day opportunity to decide on the offer. But
Yeah.
you're very good by not taking that and being bullied
Yeah,
into it.
and again, I mean, even with the seller,
Yeah.
it's tough because you have to, of course, present to the seller, and you told the seller this whole time, this is the goal, right, to get you this number, and hey, we got it first day.
Sure.
But don't take
That,
it.
yeah,
Like,
that's where the seller trusted you.
tough.
I'm glad
Yeah.
that they had that trust and you were able to
Yeah.
get to that sweet spot. Otherwise, they would have shot themselves in the foot, right? It says, no, we got a full price offer, take it.
Yeah.
I know some people in my own personal life that would be like, take it, don't waste time, like don't lose them. It's
Yeah,
like,
well, and that was the thing with the client that I just separated myself from is we did submit sometimes a full asking price offer, right away within the first weekend.
yeah,
But they were offended that they received a counter offer.
Yeah.
It's like, of course you received a counter offer. 7 other people submitted offers, and now we're in the multiple counter offer phase. But this group of people that I was working with, they just said, "What do you mean? We gave them everything they asked for."
Yeah.
That at asking price. It's like, yes, you're right. You did, but somebody else is giving them more.
Right.
So we either have to go more or we have to leave.
Right.
We can't just say, no, that's our final offer, you should take it.
Houses,
'Cause they
yeah.
already have better.
Houses are one of a kind. And if
Yeah.
you find one that gives you the feels and you like it, you need to be aggressive on it and know that not everything is like a store or a car dealership where you're just supposed to negotiate down. It's very much the opposite. You can negotiate over many times. And those are the ones worth fighting for. In all my career, there was a house that my wife and I loved. We adored it. It was on Freeman in Rose Park. And we went, I think, 25,000 over asking, which was crazy. and it ended up selling for $32,000 over asking. At 25, I was like, that's enough. That's ridiculous. You're being crazy.
You're paying what I
And
like to call the I love it tax.
I love it tax.
The I
Yes.
love it tax. You're paying extra because
Very
you
well
just love
said.
it.
And you're absolutely right. There is a price for that, and that price is almost priceless. If you get it to the point where you found a house that gives you the feels, feels like the right one, you need to be all in on that house. You really, really do. And to this day, never since before or after, I've estimated I've been inside of about 5,000 houses over the course of my career. I've never seen a house like that one. It's for the price range, the garages, just our style, and I regret it. I absolutely regret it. So if anything that lesson has done for me is I pass it along. And it's the same with my brother. He went into a house, which was his first house he ever saw, and it was amazing. It was an amazing house. And he said,
That's a setting yourself up for failure.
he's like, I can't buy the first house.
Yeah.
To this day, I feel bad by that house. And he went out the next weekend. We looked at more houses. Nothing close to that house, and never since probably. But it's like if you got that emotional attachment and it feels right, and it's a house, buy it. You have a long time to make sure it's the right house. You have 17 to 21 days typically in a contract. You got to make a move on it. Trust your gut a little bit.
And of course,
don't worry
that's
about the price.
if the financials work out.
Absolutely.
Like, don't dig yourself a hole.
And you know what?
Like
You're
that.
protected in the contracts. In California, at least, you're super protected. And in that house that I love, that I didn't go $32,000 over. Oh, by the way, they only ended up spending like $7,000 over because the appraisal came back and it didn't go, and they negotiated way less. So
That's
double
tough.
burn.
The appraisals are really tough when it comes to the I love it tax. Appraisers don't give a crap about your I love it tax. So if you've had to overbid somebody, you may have to either come up with a little bit of cash, or the home does become discounted a little bit towards the end, because you're right. I mean, especially now after 2008, you can't just put any number on a home and say, oh no, it's worth that because it has this special it factor.
Very well said. Yeah, in 2008-ish, they've abolished all those rules, created AMCs, which are middlemen companies that do the appraisals. So you're not just paying your appraiser a bottle of wine and, hey, here's an extra $50K on the appraisal value. Because prior to that, that's exactly what was going on. And there was never appraisal issues. But I don't know if you know this. This is, I think, worthy of another podcast, because I think we're running out of time. But appraisals are going away. I haven't told you this yet. But did you know appraisals are absolutely already disappearing? And they're not.
Look, do you guys see the shock on my face? I don't understand what's happening.
Yeah,
right now.
appraisals are already starting to go away. In fact, you have a little taste of one of your deals. Quicken, I think, did it. So
okay,
those are there's new ARVs coming in with Fannie and Freddie, and they both have their own systems where they're using algorithms like Zestimates and Redfin values to say what the values are. Yeah. And usually they're getting more and more accurate. So because they can go they can see the listing photos, right? Yeah. They can see if there's a hole in the ground, or there's a wall missing, or the bathroom has been ripped out. So as long as those are okay and they have a general idea of what that value is going to be, they're saying you don't need to pay the $500 for an appraisal or more.
And I guess that makes sense.
Time to be an appraiser.
And I'm assuming a part of it is, you mentioned a second ago that I had a deal that we didn't have to do an appraisal, but they were getting a loan. The reason they didn't have to do an appraisal is because they were buying a $375,000 condo, and they put $175,000 into it. Yeah. So the company was right. There was Rocket more Mortgage, than enough. Whoever was like, well, obviously this home is worth $200,000, so they had no
Correct.
problem.
They had put enough money down where it really was just meaningless to do an appraisal. But I'm talking about even things that are 5% down, 10% down. Appraisers are starting to go to the wayside. So it's really interesting to see how that is going to reshape the landscape of how we do deals. And perhaps could save a lot of heartache, because if we're going into a deal and we don't know how the appraisal is going to run out, we're going to take 3 weeks to figure that out. Great. Well, we can figure that out in the first day and know if there's an appraisal issue with this particular loan in this bank. So I think there's a lot of positives to it.
And I think it's a good call that we should talk about this on a later pod. But I'm going to bring up maybe not something that we do all the time, but definitely a strategy, which is bidding high and falling back on your appraisal. If you have a property that you have to have, that you know that you've got multiple other offers and you need to beat everybody else, if you need to go 10K over, 15K over, hoping that, maybe it doesn't appraise and you can get some of that cash back.
Yeah.
It's a
legit
viable
strategy. Yeah. You're buying to win. You're bidding to win, and then you're going to bank on the value for the bank to do their job. They don't want to pay a penny more than it's worth, right? So overall, you don't really have to worry about that umbrella. And that actually, I was going to save this because we're running out of time, but it's my last one I was going to bring up, was a CMA before making an offer. Mm-hmm. So CMA is a comparative market analysis. And that is something.
But you guys all know that.
Yeah, we all know what a CMA is. So, but a comparative market analysis essentially talks about the comps, the comparables. Comparables are in the past. It's not talking about the present and what the home values are today. I have a group of friends that are agents, and they always do CMAs for the buyers. And I've never really done. I've done a couple. I couldn't even count on one hand CMAs for buyers. And there's a couple of reasons behind that. One is, I got so many reasons I don't even know where to start. One is it's the seller's house. They can decide anything they want to sell it, not because what you think it's worth. You can offer whatever you wish, but it's irrelevant because you're interested in their house. So they're already in the driver's seat. You're in the passenger seat as a buyer. And then two, you're protected by an appraisal. Who cares? Don't fight over that because the bank is going to do it for you. And guess what? They have a lot more leverage, and your contract is banked on that. So you have this great little umbrella of insurance to know that you're not going to pay a penny more than it's worth. So why beat yourself up and make everybody mad, emotionally get distraught about everything when the bank's going to come in and do the work anyways for you? So that's the second part. And then third, it messes things up. You see a comp on there that sold for $50,000 less, but you have no justification of why that sold for $50,000 less. It could have been the side of the street, could have been the condition of the bathrooms. There was no drama, there was no wow factor. There's a million elements to it. So I think CMAs for buyers are very messy overall because you are protected by the appraisal contingency. If you are buying all cash, a little bit different. I think then you have to be more careful, more cautious because there's nobody protecting you. But at the end of the day, the sellers are in the driver's seat, the buyers are in the passenger seat. So you can turn left, you can turn right, pump the brakes, hit the gas. The buyer's going to have to go with you because it's your property they're trying to buy. And I think a lot of times people forget that. Not to say that buyers have to bend over and take whatever they can get, but overall, I think people will realize that there's a lot of leverage on the sell side and on the buy side, and you just have to kind of learn how to, assign it appropriately.
Yeah, and with your CMAs that you're talking about, last time I did a CMA, there was no button that I could check that said this one's right next to a graveyard or anything like that. The reason a home is priced at what a home is priced at is so many factors that you can't fit onto a CMA, and you also can't even explain it.
You can't explain it.
You can't explain it to everybody.
You really can't.
There's not enough time in the day to explain why each one of these properties sold for what it sold for.
It's really a very hard thing to start to justify. And every time I've seen somebody do a CMA, 9 times out of 10, it just makes things complicated. It confuses the buyer. They're like, well, what about this one? And what about that one? And you don't have all the facts and information of why that property closed at that price. What you do have in front of you is a house and a seller. This is your poker hand between heads up, buyer and seller are negotiating on a price, and you're comparing it to the market. And if you've come out of all the houses for sale interested in their home, but you're saying you're way off on the price, I don't understand where that logic comes in. It's their house. You're obviously here wanting to make a deal. So they've got something, right? And you have to give them the respect that they can justify anything they want for that house value. Yeah. You don't have to buy it. You don't have to spend it or pay for it. But they're allowed to ask whatever they want to ask. It doesn't sell? It's great. Don't get pissed off and mad that they've overlisted the house price and all that. So what? Move on. But if there's nothing better, then really can you be mad? So, it's just shocking.
It is one of my favorite things when we just finished an 8-home tour and we saw a spread of $30,000 price difference between everything that we've seen, and they end up liking the home that's maybe priced the highest or close to the highest, but then they like to say, oh no, but their price is so wrong.
Yeah.
It's like, how can you say that when it's so much better than everything
Exactly.
else that
Why
you saw.
why is it that you're interested in this one that's more expensive than the ones that are not?
Yeah.
So it's funny how they just that logic gaps their brain and
Yeah.
says, oh no, it's just priced wrong because it's not. You don't know that. You just
Yeah.
don't. I think it's justifiable between mutual acceptance of a buyer and a seller. You agree on a price. It's the best price. Everybody hopefully can win-win in that situation. But a lot of times when people are negotiating, they always expect that there has to be a loser in a negotiation, right?
Yeah.
If the other person is not losing, I'm not winning. And that's
Yeah.
not the proper way to do it. It needs to be where either both sides can be uncomfortable at something, but it needs to be a win-win situation for a true negotiation to be happy and successful. And if it's not that way, then it's not correct. And it took me a long time to figure that out because I was always overly aggressive on my negotiations. I beat things up so hard. I was actually in India once, and this was 2011, and this guy came up to me with a handmade chess set, and I was just walking down the street, so I felt like, hey, this is a perfect. He was like, hey, and I had just gotten I was 1 day in India, so I didn't really do the conversion yet from rupees to dollar bills. I don't remember what it was, but he said, hey, it's 100 rupees. And I said, 100 rupees? That's a lot. Or maybe it was 1,000 rupees. I don't know what it was, but he said 1,000 rupees. I said, I'll give you 50 rupees. He's like, no, my God, no, I can't do 50 rupees. How about 800 rupees? I was like, no, I'll give you 100 rupees. And he's like, oh, no. And then I said, fine, I'll give you 25. I went backwards. And I was like, and then he started leaving. I said, no. I grabbed him by the coat. I said, you come back here. We're not done negotiating this. And we went back and forth. And finally, he said, okay, fine. And I bought this chess set that I had no need for, but actually was remarkable. He had like carved the individual pieces by hand. It had this felt on it, and it was really small, like your travel size. And I did the conversion on that. Breaks my heart. I ended up paying 50 cents for it. Like that's how much it was. And from that moment on, it changed me. Like I was like, what did I do? Like I had no idea that I was buying.
You unnecessarily
I broke
somebody down.
this man, and I took advantage of him, and I was the winner in that situation because he was a loser.
Yeah.
And that was never going to repeat. And it's never repeated for me since. I've always been, remember, most of the time when you're negotiating, you're buying things from other people. And other people use that to go to the movies, pay for gas, buy food. And that's a good thing. Floyd Mayweather, God bless you. That guy spends money like crazy, as he should. And you know, for that means in real estate, somebody does not have to be the quintessential drop dead loser for somebody to be the winner. And I have that conversation with buyers and let them know, like, hey, you're coming in here lowballing the shit out of people, and you're offending people, and you're trying to make somebody a loser in the situation. That's not going to happen. That's not the appropriate way to buy real estate, and that probably shouldn't be a way you should live your life. And
except for, and I'm going to just throw this in there, it's the people who are trying to buy distressed homes or buy with all cash and all of those types of things. What we're talking about is a standard real estate transaction between the owner of the home and the next person who wants to occupy that home.
Absolutely.
Right? We're not talking about your flippers.
No,
and your
yeah.
We buy real estate signs.
But even there's a little bit of ethics involved when you're dealing with those things. If somebody's lost a family member, somebody's inherited a house, when does it make it okay to take advantage of somebody? You know, you can justify an ARV after repair value on a piece of real estate, make money on it, include taxes, costs, insurance, but also just because you can get it for a lot less doesn't mean always you should. Karma, even though I'm not a superstitious kind of person, is a very real thing in my life, and what goes around comes around. So you treat people right, you do the right thing, usually you're going to be okay. If you start taking advantage of people, you start being a bad human being, it's usually not going to work out well for you in the end. So, and everything just catches up to you. And I always say, like, try to do the right thing. Some of my friends, and I know as me as a negotiator, I negotiate a lot of things for family and friends, dealerships, houses, whatever it is. And I've become much more respectful in that sense. Doesn't mean I'm still not, you know, busting people's balls for negotiating hard for my clients or on my behalf.
Yeah.
But I don't want to take advantage of anybody.
Yeah. It doesn't mean that you're wasting money either.
Exactly.
Like you're not just flushing extra 10 grand down the toilet because you didn't want to offend somebody. Like, no. Yeah. Well, I think we should have, I think I know exactly who you're talking about. We should have one of your CMA for your buyers friends on, and we can have a good chat about that
exactly
process.
Who to call.
we can have a chat about
Call
that process
him.
and really just kind of maybe swap some stories about successes and
I know.
failures when
It's
it comes
funny
to
too, because
those.
me and him negotiate back and forth. I'm like, why do you do CMAs for buyers? I don't get it. I don't get it. Explain it to me. So we'll have him hopefully be a guest appearance on our show, and hopefully we can hear his mentality behind the CMAs for buyers, and we can see if there's any advantages, and he can sway me to start giving CMAs to buyers who don't agree on. So,
All right.
alrighty, I think
Well,
that's it.
let's keep our fingers crossed that we don't need to go out and buy a bunch of earthquake insurance.
Oh my God, the big one, the big one.
The big one is coming.
I hope not.
All right, guys.
All right.
See you next week.